I think we definitely been hit with some adversity and injuries and having to come back in ball games. I think just the kind of tenacity the team has shown in the first 30 games, in terms of the fight, the competitiveness, never being out of a ball game. I think all that's been a real positive, and we've had to have a whatever it is now, some type of winning streak, and then also to overcome a 5-game losing streak right in the middle of all of it. I think over the first month they definitely showed the ability to bounce back, and that's probably the biggest positive we've seen so far. I think on the offensive end, we've gotten closer to the type of offense that we want to play. So obviously, some of the control of the strike zone, along with the ability to hit the ball out of the park, and also an athletic group that can do some things on the base pass. The starting pitching has been for the most part pretty consistent. And I think here over the course of the last 4 or 5 games or so, some of the positive traits we've seen from a bullpen that we believe in. So I think all of those areas there's been positives, and I think trying to build on those for the last 30 games. I think with MacKenzie specifically, I think the preference, again, we see him as a starting pitcher. So I think ultimately that's where we'd like to see him. In terms of breaking into the major leagues, everyone has a different path. We've seen it differently with Chris Paddock and Joey Lucchesi came in as starters. Cal Quantrill kind of came in as a hybrid type guy, and more out of the pen, and has had the opportunity to start a little bit. A.J. Morihone's kind of gone back and forth. So it just really depends on what the team's need is and what we feel like for that player. I think MacKenzie specifically, he's being developed as a starter, and we'll kind of see what happens here in the next 30 days. I think the focus has been mostly internal. We like our group and our team, and that's just not just the 28 man on the active roster. I think we've already had moves, and I think thanks to some of the depth we have some guys that are that we feel like are major league caliber players that are over at the alternate site as well. So I think that continues to be the main focus. Obviously, the deadline is here, coming up in the next 6 days or so on the 31st. So, we'll be prepared just to see what else is out there externally that we could add to this club. But the majority of our focus has been internal. The players that are either in the building in Petco right now or over at the alternate site, and other players in the organization that we feel like can help us for the last 30 games. I think all the players that we'd be talking about, would be for another club would be participating in the MLB testing program. So I feel good about that part of it. I think it's felt like a pretty normal deadline in terms of the conversation so far in the last week to 10 days. I think if you go to make a deal, you probably have to make sure that, moving somebody's family or somebody moving across the country, during the like in this, in this COVID period, that you got to make sure that obviously if you're trading talent to bring somebody in, that player is going to show up and going to be ready to play for you. But outside of that, it feels honestly from a discussion standpoint, pretty normal. Each deadline presents different situations and different challenges. I think we'll weigh out the fact that, it's 30 games, not 60 games or so, or whatever it is usually at the regular deadline, 2 months versus 1 month. We'll weigh that out. But you always are looking at, kind of what the implications are for the off season, what the challenges are for a short-term rental versus, somebody that has more medium or long-term value. I think those conversations amongst our scouts and our baseball ops team and our R&D group have been pretty similar, and the conversation amongst the different teams so far from our end has been pretty similar to a regular deadline. I think over the course of the last few deadlines, and really over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, it's been more of a position of trying to move either established players or guys at the major league level for more talent. And I think now we're, in that spot where, you're looking at different pieces to try to complement, a team at the major league level that's playing pretty well right now. So, I think we're prepared and for the situation in the course of the next 4 or 5 days, and kind of continue to look forward to the discussion and see how it lines up. But, again, it's hard to make trades. So I think we're, for the most part, our stuff has been focused more on the guys that we have in our organization right now, and how some of those guys may fit for us as guys that can come in and help our club and complement our team over the course of the next month. with the bullpen. We think highly of a lot of the guys that are down there, and hoping that some of the recent performances, that guys can build off of that, because again, I think it's looking at it, sometimes you look at the guys that are out there, and sometimes things may look better from afar, but we just have a lot of belief in the group that's there, and I think we came into the year thinking it was going to be a strength. Understanding kind of the nature of bullpens, they're always pretty volatile, and they can kind of, but I think sometimes they can, you can have issues quickly, but you also get better pretty quickly, with some performances. And we've seen some of our guys throw real well here in the last week or so. I think there's a belief in a bunch of the guys that are down there, and I think that continues to be our main focus, is guys that have track record. How do we get them back to a similar spot that they've been? Guys that have a lot of ability and talent, that have shown a lot of potential, like a Javi Guerra, for example. How do we continue to get him? How do we get him consistent and build off some of the positive outings he's had this year? Because in terms of like judging those guys versus what's out there externally, that's the job here over the course of the next week and making that evaluation. But I think we go at it, thinking that our guys are, we think our guys are good and can help us. And I think that's probably the main focus, is making sure that, we get some consistency for some of those guys, or get guys to perform like they're capable.